One of the essentials to be known before practicing yoga is the obstacle or the number of obstacles that may appear in our path. Patanjali has given a list of 9 obstacles and added 5 more and has asked the sadhaka to beware of them. The technical word used in the work is antaraya, antarayati, something that comes in between the sadhaka and the goal of his life. The first one is vyadhi, physical disease. The second obstacle is dhyana, mental laziness. Third is samshaya, doubts, especially with regard to the statements in the scriptures or the teachings given by the guru. Then pramada, carelessness. Alasya, physical laziness. Avirati, absence of vairagya or attachment to the sense organs and sense objects. Bhranti darshana, alabdha bhumikatva, anavasthitatva. Bhranti darshana is hallucination. Alabdha bhumikatva is, in spite of trying hard, one is not able to attain that particular yogic state. And the last one is anavasthitatva. Even if a particular yogic experience is got, it cannot be retained for a long time. The last 3 obstacles, bhranti darshana, alabdha bhumikatva and anavasthitatva, can be remedied only with the help of the guru because they are very serious obstacles. Along with these 9 obstacles, Patanjali mentions 5 more and he calls them as vikshepa sahabhuvaha. Vikshepa means distraction of the mind. These obstacles exist along with the distraction of the mind, or they cause distraction of the mind. Dukkha, unhappiness, sorrow. Daurmanasya, the mind is disturbed due to not getting what one wants, disappointment. Angame jayatva, unsteadiness of the limbs. Then shvasa and prashvasa, not able to control the breath during pranayama. Now after this, Patanjali gives us a number of simple techniques with the help of which we will be able to control the mind. The 8-limbed yoga or 8 steps of yoga will be taken up later on for a detailed treatment. Before that, he gives about 9 items of discipline which he calls as parikarmas. They are aids to concentration. While taking up this, he mentions the fundamental discipline. It is very difficult to control the mind, but it can definitely be brought under control by abhyasa and vairagya. That is how Lord Krishna puts it in the Bhagavad Gita. The same idea we find here. Abhyasa vairagyabhyam tan nirodha. The mind is rising in the form of vrittis, waves, constantly and continuously. They are innumerable. How to control them? Patanjali says abhyasa and vairagya. This is the right royal method, standard method by which we can control the mind, the vagaries of the mind. And again he defines these two separately. Tatra sthitau yatnaha abhyasaha. Abhyasa means repeated practice. I want to control my mind. With great difficulty, I hold it upon the object of concentration, maybe for a few seconds. Tatra sthitau, in that condition of concentration, yatnaha, the effort that you make again and again, that is called abhyasa. That means, with some difficulty, I control the mind, concentrate it upon my Ishtadevata, maybe for 5 seconds or 10 seconds. It tries to run away, bring it back again. So to keep the mind in that condition of concentration, the repeated efforts that are made, that is given a general name, abhyasa, repeated practice. Now this practice becomes steady if there are 3 conditions. Satu dirghakala nairantarya satkara asevito dridha bhumihi. In fact, the whole work is so beautiful, so wonderful, that it is better to memorize it, because it may be difficult in old age, but when the boys are young, especially in our training center, they are made to memorize these sutras. Satu dirghakala nairantarya satkara asevito dridha bhumihi. Saha represents or refers to abhyasa. This abhyasa becomes dridha bhumi, well established, firmly grounded. When, if it is practiced for a long time, dirghakala, and if it is practiced without breaks, nirantara, dirghakala nairantarya, then if it is practiced with faith, with love, with devotion behind it, then it becomes well established, steady. Vidyaranya, while commenting upon this particular sutra, gives a nice story. A Brahmana was there. He had not studied the Vedas, but he had a son, and he wanted his son to go to the Gurukula, then learn the Vedas. He sent him. And on the 5th day after sending him, the father was very much worried that the son had not come back. So his neighbor came to him and asked him, "What's the matter? Why are you worried? You know, my son has gone to the house of the Guru to study the Vedas. It is now the 5th day and still he has not come back." Then how can you say that he has not come back? Because each Veda takes 12 years to study. He said, "Do you think I am a fool? I do not know. There are 4 Vedas. First day 1 Veda, second day 2nd Veda, third day 3rd Veda, 4th day 4th Veda. 5th day he should come back." So he narrates this story and then tells the sadhakas, if anybody expects quick results in the path of yoga, he is like that idiotic Brahmana. That is about dirghakala. The second point is nairantarya. The practice must be without breaks. Even in this world we know, when we are trying to learn a new science or art, if there is a break for a long time, you will lose control over it. Suppose you are learning veena or violin. After practicing for 3 months, you give a holiday for another 3 months. Again you have to start from the ABCD or fundamentals. So nairantarya is also necessary, practicing yoga without breaks. But even more important is satkara. You must like and love your spiritual practice. Our Tyagishanji used to say, interest and attention go together. If you are deeply interested in a subject, automatically concentration comes. So that is satkara. Satu dirghakala satkara asevito dudha. Then the second word vairagya is defined. Drishta anushravika vishaya vitrishnasya vashikara samgya vairagyam. Vidyaranya has given a long commentary upon this sutra. Actually, vairagya or detachment has 4 stages. Patanjali has mentioned only the 4th stage here, thereby implying the first 3 also. What are they? First is called yatamana samgya vairagyam. A person starts his spiritual practice. In the very beginning, he knows that vairagya is necessary. He tries to control his mind. So the vairagya or detachment in his mind, which induces him to practice self-control, that is called yatamana samgya vairagyam. The vairagya of a person who is trying to control. Then comes the second stage, vyatireka samgya vairagyam. After 3 months or 6 months, Vidyaranya advises the yogi, you quietly sit and think. When I started the practice of yoga, what was the condition of my mind? What were the plus and what were the minus points? To what extent have I gained? To what extent have I not gained? So one has to think like that and separate. Vyatireka means separating those aspects of mind which have been conquered and those aspects of mind which have not yet been conquered. Then concentrate more upon the second half so that you gain greater control over your mind. That is called Vyatireka Samgya Vairagyam, Vairagya, which helps you to discriminate between the 2 states of the mind which have been controlled, which have not yet been controlled. Third is a much higher stage, Ekendriya Samgya Vairagyam. Ekendriya means the mind. Now in this stage, the mind is completely free from all desires and ambitions, and it is able to concentrate well on the object of meditation. But still, there are desires hidden in it in the seed form. So we do not know when these hidden desires will come out. When there is an opportunity in the external world, certainly these samskaras will come out. So Ekendriya Samgya Vairagya is the third, higher stage, but still it is not the last. The fourth one is called Vashikara Samgya Vairagyam, which has been defined by Patanjali, and that is the final stage in the Apara Vairagya. Para Vairagya comes only after realization. What is Vashikara Samgya Vairagyam? There is absolute control over the mind, so that it is not tempted, even if the objects of concentration are near at hand, and even if one is fully free to enjoy them. As Kalidasa puts it, Vikara hetau sati vikriyante yesham na chetamsi tayeva dhiraha. Vikara hetu, that which causes vikara or distraction of the mind, is very near. It is at hand, one can take and enjoy them. Even then, if that person's mind is not at all disturbed, he is a dhira, he is a hero in the spiritual sense. Then, the last stage, the highest stage of Vairagya is Paravairagya, that is Tatparam Purushakyatehe Gunavaitrishnam. It is only after the realization of the Purusha or Atman that Prakriti, Trigunatmaka Prakriti or Maya leaves him completely, Therefore, his vairagya becomes absolutely natural and normal. So that is about the first method he has given to control the mind, abhyasa and vairagya, which is a very general practice. Then he goes to give another sadhana, tat pratishedhartham ekatattva abhyasaha. So the mind is rising in the form of waves or vrittis constantly and continuously. I want to control them. How to do it? He says, eka tattva abhyasa. You just select one item or one subject of concentration and try to concentrate the mind repeatedly upon that, and slowly you will gain control over it. Eka tattva abhyasa will automatically help you to do pratishedha, eliminate the other waves of the mind. That is what we are trying to practice. Practicing concentration on the Ishtadevata and repeating the divine name of the Lord. I think of Sri Ramakrishna, after 10 seconds some other thought comes, I push it away, again put the thoughts of Sri Ramakrishna in my mind. So this is Eka Tattva Abhyasa. Then the third method or third item of sadhana which is given to help the sadhaka is this: Maitri Karuna Muditopekshanam Sukha Dukkha Punya Apunyanam Bhavanatas Chitta Prasadanam. This is a more practical discipline, we can say. Maitri is friendship, Karuna, compassion, Mudita, happiness, feeling happy, Upeksha, just ignoring. Towards whom? Sukha Dukkha Punya Apunyanam. There is a person who is very happy. I see Mr. X is very happy because probably he has got something which he wanted. When I see it, because I am a yogi, trying to practice self-discipline, self-control, I should not dislike him or hate him or become jealous of him. I should have a feeling of maitri, friendship. I should feel happy. Oh, he is happy, so let me be happy. So cultivating a feeling of happiness towards a person who is happy, who has got or who has gained happiness, that is one. Then second one is karuna. Somebody is suffering. No, we should not enjoy because that XYZ is suffering. Because I dislike him, no. That is against the fundamental principle of spiritual sadhana. If I am in a position to help him, very good, let me. If I cannot, at least let me sympathize with him, karuna. So that is the second aspect of discipline, maitri, karuna. Then mudita. Somebody has done something good, punya karma. We should feel happy about it, good. Instead of committing an evil deed, he has done something very good. So we should feel happy about it. Suppose we see somebody who is a sinner or who is committing evil deeds and we are not in a position to control him or advise him what to do, just ignore it, that's all. Instead of making our mind unnecessarily disturbed or full of tension, let us just ignore it. Krishnarpanamastu, O Lord, take care of him, that's all. So this is another method that Patanjali has described. The next method is prachardana vidharanabhyam va pranasya. This pranashakti is there, which is being manifested through the breathing system. So by controlling the breathing system, you are controlling the prana or pranic energy. Through that you will be controlling the mind and gaining control, concentration of mind. In fact, pranayama is very much stressed even in the Puranas and Dharmashastras, and very often it is also prescribed as a prayashchitta for sins. Simple pranayama all of us know, Swamiji has also described it in the Raja Yoga, but the more complicated ones given in the Hatha Yogic scriptures have to be learned directly under an expert teacher. There was one famous yogi, Krishnamachar, who was the teacher of Iyengar and others. He was the teacher of yoga for Krishnaraja Vodiyar and Chamaraja Vodiyar in the early days. Once he was travelling in the train going to KGF. At that time KGF was under the control of the British government. And there was influenza in the old Mysore state. So the train stopped there in that Urgaon station, and English doctors, 2 English doctors entered the train, and they started examining the patients before allowing them to enter the Madras territory. When they came to Krishnamachari, they found that he had 104 degrees fever. Then they said, "You cannot go." He asked them, "Why?" "Because you have got 104 degrees fever." "Is it? See." When they again examined him, there was no fever. And the person who was with him, Krishnamachari, he told him he is a very great yogi, Hatha yogi. He can control the temperature of the body at various points. So, the thumb can have a fever, very hot, but the little finger may be cold. That was the type of control he had established over his body. He was a very great Hatha yogi. Pattabhi Jois and others, they are all his disciples. So, prachardana vidharanabhyam va pranasya, by controlling pranic energy through pranayama, one will be able to control the mind also. Vishayavati va pravrittihi utpanna manasaha sthiti nibandhini. Well, this is a more complicated statement. It simply means this. There are certain parts of the human body. You concentrate your mind upon these parts. Say, for instance, the root of the tongue, or the tip of the tongue, or the roof of the mouth, and so on. When concentrated for some time, when we practice concentration on these points, after some time we get some divine experiences, like smelling very fine fragrance and so on. So that is the indication for the mind getting concentrated. Of course, these are more difficult practices, not very easy for the ordinary sadhakas. But one statement he has made here is something which is more practicable for us and more easily practiced by us. Vitaraga vishayam va chittam. Now there are great people who have conquered raga, attachment towards the things of the world. They are not at all bothered. If it comes, yes, they take it. If it doesn't come, their minds are not upset. In fact, that is perfect control. You neither seek nor avoid. When it comes, you take it. As a matter of duty, you do it. When it doesn't come, your mind is not upset. That is real control. There are such persons in this world who are vitaraga, who are without attachment, no desires, no ambitions, always calm and quiet. If you spot anybody like that, then try to concentrate your mind upon them. Of course, what he says is, you concentrate upon their minds. We cannot concentrate on their minds because the mind is something which is intangible. But by imagining those great people in our mind, by thinking of them, automatically by thinking of their great qualities, our mind also slowly calms down. Or it comes to this by meditating upon the great sages and saints and seers and Mahatmas, we can gain concentration of mind. Another exercise recommended by Patanjali is this, Swapna Nidra Jnanalambanam Va. Of course, the commentators have given very long explanations, we need not bother about them. But one explanation can definitely be appreciated and practiced by us. Suppose a person sees in a dream, he gets a very fine dream, a very good dream. In that dream he finds that he has entered into a deep forest, and suddenly he finds a beautiful temple and is impressed by that, enters into the temple, and there he sees the image of the Lord, a very beautiful image, as if the Lord is living, and he stays in front of the image for some time, feels great joy and peace. Then the dream breaks. Even now the dream breaks, for some time this experience lingers in the mind. Patanjali says, let it continue. You try to bring back to memory such types of good dreams so that your mind can get greater peace and joy, greater concentration. Swapna Nidra Jnana Lampanam. Wow. Then finally, he gives us full freedom. Yathabhimata Dhyana Dva. Or you can meditate in any way you like, provided it helps you to concentrate your mind. Here the commentators give us a warning. When Patanjali is telling Yathabhimata Dhyana Dva, you can meditate upon anything you like, it does not mean that you should meditate upon the objects of desire, objects of temptation in this world. No. Only those objects which have been prescribed by the scriptures as fit for meditation, only such objects should be brought into the mind. There may be images of gods or temples or some very fine idea which will elevate the mind and so on. In other words, the sadhaka is given full freedom to choose the object of meditation. After this, Patanjali takes up the 8 steps of yoga one by one. Patanjali says that viyoga is yoga. What does it mean? Yoga means union of the Jivatman with Paramatman, ultimately. Or the mind, absolutely purified mind, gets united with Ishtadevata. Viyoga means separation. When the Jivatman or Purusha gets himself separated from Maya or Prakriti, then that becomes yoga. So in one sense it is viyoga, in another sense it is yoga. It is viyoga from Prakriti and yoga with God or Atman. For that, Patanjali has given 8 limbs, Ashta Angas, one by one. Yoga Anga Anushtanat Ashuddhikshaye Jnana Deeptihi Aviveka Khyate. Viveka Khyati is a technical word used in Patanjali's Yoga Shastra, and it simply means Atma Jnana, that's all. Khyati means knowledge, direct experience of the Atman. Viveka means separating. When we as the Jivatman, of course Patanjali calls the Jivatman as Purusha and Prakriti. When the Purusha uses his power of discrimination. I am Chaitanya, I am full of consciousness. Prakriti is Jada, Achaitanya. I am different from that. By mistake, by ignorance, I have identified myself with it, so I am in bondage. Thinks like that and gets himself separated, viveka. So when that viveka becomes full-fledged, khyati or direct experience of the Atman comes. So viveka khyati is Atman experience or Atma jnana brought ultimately by the sense of separation from the Prakriti, separation of the Jivatman from Prakriti. So how to get it? Actually, we are the Atman and it is very much there. We are not able to feel our Atman nature because of the ashuddhi or impurities in the mind. But how to get rid of this impurity? Yoga anga anushthanat ashuddhi kshaye. So you practice these various steps of yoga. The ashuddhi or impurity of the mind gradually gets attenuated, destroyed, and then jnana deepti comes slowly. To the extent your impurity becomes less and less, to that extent your knowledge, awareness of the Atman also slowly increases up to aviveka khyate, up to the last point of viveka khyati, resulting in Atma jnana. One example can make it very clear. We have got a lantern, we have got the chimney, the light is burning brilliantly, but the chimney is full of soot, black soot. So we take a piece of cloth, go on cleaning the glass. To the extent we clean the glass chimney, to that extent light comes out. When the glass chimney is 100% clean, 100% light also comes out. Similarly, by the practice of yoga, when the mind is slowly cleansed, viveka khyati, knowledge or direct experience of our Atma nature slowly comes or unfolds. And at the last moment, 100% purity, 100% viveka khyati. That is the ultimate step. Now what are the yoga angas which are to be practiced for the sake of purification of the mind? Patanjali has given all the 8 steps in one simple aphorism. Yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, samadhaya, ashtau angani. Yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara. These 5 are external. Dharana, dhyana and samadhi are internal steps. Out of 8 steps, 5 steps are external and 3 steps are internal. And they are taken up and explained in great detail. There are quite a good number of works which actually deal with the subject of yoga. Yoga Yajnavalkya, for instance. There are also 20 Upanishads called Yoga Upanishads, Mandala Brahmana Upanishad, for instance. In most of these scriptures dealing with the subject of yoga, all these items of discipline mentioned here have been dealt with, sometimes in much greater detail, sometimes adding many more things which are not given here. It is worth studying these steps in detail. First comes yama. Himsadibhyaha nishiddha karmabhyaha yoginam yamayanti nivartayanti. Yam means to control, to pull back. These 5 are called as yama because they help the sadhaka to withdraw himself from those items of practice which may ultimately result in spiritual ruination, like himsa. Ahimsa, satya, asteya, brahmacharya, aparigraha, yamaha. So these are the 5 items listed under yama. Now what is ahimsa? Ahimsa is not harming any being, whether in thought or words or deeds. Karmana manasa vacha sarva bhuteshu sarvada aklesha jananam prokta tvahimsa paramarshibhihi. We should remember one thing here. These are the ideals that have been given to us. It is not possible for every one of us to practice every one of these disciplines to perfection. But to the extent we try to practice them, to the extent we gain control over ourselves, to that extent we are also progressing in the spiritual path. So we need not be disappointed if we are not in a position to control ourselves completely. Ahimsa, not harming others. Not harming others in thought, word and deed. In fact, Swami Vivekananda says, even thoughts are very, very important. If you think of bad thoughts, evil about other people, it affects them. On the other hand, if you think of good things about others, send good thoughts to other people, that will affect their minds and slowly convert their minds to better ways of life. That is why, saints always send very powerful thoughts for the good of the whole humanity. And people who are in a receptive mood, they are able to get those thoughts and get strengthened from within. So in ahimsa, another fact which we have to remember is we have to be very careful in speaking to others. We should not hurt other people by speaking very harsh words. It is called vak parushya in the scriptures. Vak parushya, speech which is very harsh. By harsh speech we are hurting other people. In fact, Sarvajna says in one of his vachanas that the wound created by the sword gets cured very quickly, whereas the wound inflicted upon the mind by a bad tongue is not forgotten, doesn't heal till the end of life. So one has to be very careful, especially those who are practicing spiritual disciplines should control their speech. Then comes Satya. Sarvatha Anrita Anabhibhashanam. In Sanskrit, the word Satya is used, and as against that, Anrita is used, not Asatya. It's very interesting. Satya and Anrita. Shankaracharya always uses these words together, Satya and Rite. But they don't use the word Satya and Asatya, because the word Anrita has some speciality about it. Rita means that which is straight, not crooked, which takes you straight to God, to the highest abode of life. Anrita is something which is not that which is crooked. So anything that is crooked is Anrita. So Satya and Anrita. We have to know what is Satya and what is Anrita, and avoid Anrita and stick to the path of truth. Yatharthe vangmanase satyam bruyat priyam bruyat na bruyat satyam apriyam. One has to speak the truth, one should not speak untruth, and one should speak the truth in a very nice and sweet way. Of course, Lord Krishna in the Mahabharata, in the Karna Parva, advises Arjuna that Satya does not mean simply telling the truth, it should also help people to get peace of mind. In other words, suppose I speak an untruth, it is not untruth if it is going to help somebody to get self-confidence, peace of mind, and helps him to overcome his problems and difficulties, then it is truth itself. On the other hand, suppose we tell something which is apparently true, which is going to harm that person or land him in trouble, then that is not truth at all. And we have that famous story of a simple sage. He was sitting in his ashrama and one person came running there. He was a traveler and some thieves were following him. He came to the sage and told him, thieves are coming, robbers are coming, I want protection. He said, all right, go and you hide yourself in that corner. He went there. Afterwards the robbers came and they asked him, one person came here, we saw him, we were following him, please tell us, you are a man of truth, where is he? Oh, he is there. And the result was, the robbers went and killed him and took away all the things. Though he said the truth, he spoke the truth, it resulted in harming that person, therefore he incurred sin. This is the story that Lord Krishna tells Arjuna and then pacifies him when he was angry against his elder brother. So Bhuta Hitam Satyam is very important. That is the definition he gives. Satya should help people to be happy, to get peace of mind. Then comes Asteya. Ashastra Purvakam Dravyanam Paratasvikaranam. Steya, stealing. It's a very, very ordinary word, stealing. But in a more technical sense, accepting anything which is against the dictates of the Shastras is stealing. You may be going in the street, you may be seeing a bag or a golden chain lying there. If you want to take it and keep it with you, that is stealing. Though you have not actually stolen it from anybody. Your duty is either you don't take it or you take it, you give it to the police people so that it is their business to find out. So what does not truly belong to us, not accepting it, that is asteya. Parasvatva anapaharaha. Ishavasya Upanishad says, Ma gridhaha kasyas vidhanam. Do not covet anybody's wealth. Even to covet the wealth in the mind is as good as stealing. One has to be extremely careful. Of course, we know that it is not so easy to control the mind. All types of thoughts are coming into the mind. That's all right. Sharda Devi says the same thing. A sin committed in the mind is no sin at all in this Kali Yuga, Mother says. But the thing is, we should be conscious that it is a bad thought, it is a sinful thought, we should avoid it and then try to control it. That is important. So, we have to be very careful. Even in the mind, we should not desire for the things that belong to other people. Then comes Brahmacharya. Now this word has been interpreted at three different levels. One is Brahmani Charya. Parabrahma Vastu is there. The mind is completely established in Brahman or God. God consciousness is there always, a tangible experience. Then that mind will never come down to the lower level of the objects of temptation. That is the highest Brahmacharya which is possible only for a Jivan Mukta. The second one is Brahma means Veda. So a Vedic student who is learning the Vedas in the house of the Guru, Gurukula, he is expected to follow a very strict life of discipline. That is also called Brahmacharya. Third one is controlling the sexual instinct. All the three are included in the meaning of this word. Sri Ramakrishna says Kama Kanchana Tyaga, and Kabir says where there is Kama there is no Rama, where there is Rama there is no Kama. So ultimately the best way to conquer lust is to fill the mind with the thoughts of the Lord, with the repetition of the divine name. And Nama Japa is very, very powerful. It can definitely elevate us to higher levels. In fact, one of the engineers, young engineer who was working in a particular project in Andhra Pradesh probably 50, 60 years back, he once had to face a very serious problem of lust, and then he suddenly remembered his Gurudev and started repeating the divine name with great intensity. And within a couple of minutes, slowly the mind became completely normal, completely calm and quiet. So that shows the power of the divine name. Then aparigraha, not accepting gifts or things beyond our true requirements. Vishayanam arjana rakshana kshaya sangha himsa dosha darshanat asvikaranam. Somebody is prepared to present me something. Please come, please take it. He may be giving it with all sincerity. He will be very happy if I accept it, but do I really need it? We should think of that. If I don't need it, I should say no, sorry, thank you. But we, the Swamis, face a very serious situation, or a curious situation, I can say. Sometimes our devotees come and bring all sorts of things and give to us. If we say no, they will be hurt. If we take enthusiastically, they will think, oh, the Swami is interested in these things. So we have to be very careful. What we do is, take it, drama, keep it there. And afterwards give it away to somebody without the knowledge of the people who give it to us. So, aparigraha, not accepting gifts which are not necessary for our spiritual life. That is important. Shariradi sthiti matra vyatirikta bhoga sadhana asvikaraha. Sadashiva Brahmendra, the great yogi who lived in the 19th century in Nerur, in Tamil Nadu, he has written a beautiful commentary on the Yoga Shastra. He says, Shariradi sthiti matra vyatirikta bhoga sadhana asvikaraha. What is needed to keep the body in good condition for sadhana, only that much we can accept. Yes, food is necessary, clothing is necessary. But how much? Just to keep the body in good condition so that it is useful for sadhana. Anything more than that, asvikaraha, not accepting. That is real aparigraha. Dravyanam api anadanam apadi api yathechaya aparigraha ityuktaha tam prayatnena palayet. So another commentator says,